Interesting read already, and really starting to make sense based on the divine masculines. If you haven't seen their read, go through and take a look. Now, we're going to jump straight into this. For those of you that don't know, I'm Yildiz from Yildiz Readings 5D, an intuitive, psychic, clairvoyant, etc., etc. I don't want to go too far into it. If you do want to join our exclusive membership, all the links are directly below, as well as booking links should you wish a private session. Now, I wanted to get straight into this because I was seeing something of the likes of a bit of a Venus retrograde happening in the divine masculine's energy, and I was like, I kept thinking about Juno because I do know that Juno moved retrograde, and this is something in the twin flame path of a bit of a bugbear, and especially romantically. Pertaining to marriages, contracts, partnerships, as traditional marriage energy. Juno went retrograde on the 5th of June. And it's stationed retrograde in Aquarius. Now, August 11th, it does shift back into Capricorn. And again, looking at those direct structures. And, something psychically I really picked up quite profoundly was that we are getting quite a large kind of, how would I explain it, window where we are dealing with the Venusian subjects in a retrograde, because no sooner does it move direct, Venus moves retrograde. So September the 17th, Juno stations direct in Capricorn, but it is going to move back into Aquarius again. We'll talk about that later, but I do feel the subject matters at the moment, it can be on the bigger scale. And I'm seeing a lot of sevens coming through in this read. Your crowning energy is a 7. Let's look further. We then have your past position of the crown chakra is a 7, and the heart of it, where it does feel like the sacrifices you're making. And then the next card is a 7. It's like, the 7th house can be, again, contracts, partnerships. We have seeker of the truth is a 7, and success and growth. Now, we're going to get into this dualistic reading and see why I think these things are important. At the moment, there could be these stark reality shifts that you're experiencing, potentially because Saturn is retrograde. And so you're trying to review those areas of your life, but also, kind of coming to a place where you're wanting physical reality. You can feel everything is quite foggy. This can be a window, honestly, all the way through to September, where those blasts from the past energy can be coming back. And I do particularly feel that as we do have that last eclipse at the end of the month, it could be where we finally see some forward momentum. For a lot of us, being that the North Node was in a spiritual energy, but also in a 12th house energy. For many of you, it could have felt very elusive, almost like you could be in the connection, but be very separate at the moment. You might feel quite isolated. You could be going through a lot of meditation and frequency of purging the ego. That once that shifts is like, and I've been using this analogy for weeks and weeks and weeks. Cinderella, the clock strikes 12. We're reaching that portal. Not necessarily is it going to turn into a pumpkin on this occasion, because it is wrapping up a cycle. Pardon me. But what I do see here is, yes, you can go through stages of delusions, illusions, feeling like you need to be around people and connections, and maybe even looking at bugbears of connections of where within the romantic context, either a tribe, a family, a circumstance has hindered your progression forward. Now, I directly do see a lot of changes happening in the divine masculine's life, and I think that's quite a positive thing, because we can only show up on our end, plus from a spiritual point of view, and your crown chakra is giving you some messages of the past, right? So if you look to the most recent past, our crown can only receive enlightenment when we are in detachment and we purge the ego. And the first eclipse we do have moving into this month is in the house of Leo. So there could be great optimism and then realism. So we do need to be very careful of ego. We do need to be very careful about judging ourselves also. And as a divine feminine, you might go through stages of worthiness, how you look, and then it could be something much deeper than that. But there is this hangman feeling almost like you've been held back. Now, what are we fighting? This is something we need to really assess. You could be feeling, okay, do I move into this? Do I stand tall? Do I actually state how I feel? Or you could be feeling this person really is moving through a spiritual battle and addressing, some circumstances in their life. And it's funny because threes directly came up, and I'm not actually looking at this as you, divine feminine. I'm looking at this card of choosing your battles. I had this individual that gave me a reading years ago, and it's funny because when I look at this reading, it was the way that they described it, and it was where the individual that you are dealing with, you may perceive them as not being strong enough to address some of these large obstacles in their life at this point in time. And that's really more how they're perceiving the situation. However, they are confronting it head on, and it is three direct areas of their life so that they can move through the gates and come through towards you. But how you're viewing it, potentially even psychically, is I don't think these individuals can actually address this. I don't think many of us are going to have a lot of choices. I do think this is about pushing through and actually dealing with these things so that we can really come into our authentic self. Now, look at how this is, splitting through. And I think we always are the mirror to each other. So in some shape or form, you might be doing this yourself and really having some spiritual challenges between, and the Mr. Summersby came up in a frequency setting, and through the awakening process, what you do tend to find is where in your ego you believe the person can never change, you do tend to find that on the opposite side of the scale, they actually really have, and it's your fear that if they do, you won't have that resource book because you will be dealing with a brand new individual. And very similar to Mr. Summersby in the story, this person ends up being everything and more, a bit like a soul walk-in, and that's what I'm saying in this circumstance. This person is actually coming back. This person is wanting something for you, wanting something in a sense of not, I wouldn't say necessarily turning back time, but they've learned a lot about building. They've learned a lot about investing. And both you and this individual have been through a great deal in your life. Even if you have not had a significant amount of time with them, on their own, even the innate energy they've experienced with you, what they have learned is what a healthy relationship looks like. And look, healthy doesn't mean that crap doesn't happen. Healthy means, gee, this person's been here for me no matter what. They've unconditionally loved me, they've accepted me, even if I've given them nothing. This person has been the true epitome of love and acceptance. And so there is luck on this person's side. There is a desire to actually build with you. They do feel they could have a very happy life with you. They do feel that they are seen by you, but you may be feeling like you can't look at this in a very confident setting. So spiritually for you, we're going to go back separately, but I do see a transition happening with this person. I do see this is going to be more than just intimacy. I feel it's going to be very it's not just going to be the chemical reaction, let me put it that way. Sacral chakra energy. It's more than this. So you could be going to this level and thinking they're the same person, but they're actually not responding in the same way. So I had a revelation many moons ago to do with the intimate connotation of the energy. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes when we've had a pattern with a particular individual, we almost feel it's their recipe. And then we can become old with that recipe because we're wanting more. And we're always going to want more in life. When the person then shows you, okay, you've sent that recipe out into the universe, so I'm not going to offer it in that way, we can get a little bit of PTSD and think, oh my gosh, that means this person doesn't like me. But it was the polar opposite. It was the energy showing up to show respect. So if suddenly they're not responding to you only in an intimate vibration, it is because this person is wanting to give you something far, far more than that, because they do know that true intimacy can only occur with complete trust. And there is more than meets the eye in a connection. There's so many different onion layers. So this is something where some of your dreams could actually turn up in very profound ways in the 3D, and how these changes are actually coming about. You might not instantly trust, you might not feel that it feels natural for you to respond to it. You might have to let go of the steering wheel here and trust that some of the downloads you're having could be the shadow, and some of it actually could be something very, very positive for you in the long run. But you're going to have to really go through this portal and see it through to the other side. If you do need a personal booking, you can go to the link directly below. All of them are out now. We have all 3 editions. And separately, if you do, like I said, want to book a reading, you can go to all the information directly below, and or sign up to our exclusive membership hub, which can be found via Yildiz Readings 5D. We have the landing page there, and it opts you in to be notified about when our next intake is coming. So go through, sign up, no obligation, and if you want to receive an email about when it's open to the public, you'll be notified. Otherwise, I will see you next week.